All right, buckle up, because today we are diving deep into the Trump 2024 campaign. We're taking you behind the scenes with a recent Washington Post article that really gives you a look at the final weeks before the election.
Okay.
And I think you're going to find this interesting. So, you know our listeners are savvy. They want to know what's really going on. Is Trump's campaign a well-oiled machine or a total political freefall? Well, the article we're looking at kind of sets up this contrast because on the one hand, you have all these Trump advisors saying this is his most disciplined campaign yet, less drama, fewer leaks. But then the article goes on to describe some, well, let's just say interesting happenings, like this whole thing about Haitian immigrants in Ohio. Both Trump and his running mate, J.D. Vance, have been pushing this narrative about them kidnapping and, get this, eating people's pets. I mean, come on.
Sounds far-fetched.
And that's not all. You've got Trump publicly going after Taylor Swift for endorsing Kamala Harris. And don't forget that whole public feud with the staff at Arlington National Cemetery. It's like every day there's a new controversy. So I'm curious to get your take on this. Is this deliberate? Is this chaos as a strategy?
Well, it's definitely a tactic we've seen before from Trump. I mean, look back at the 2016 campaign, right?
Nonstop.
Yeah, it was controversy after controversy, and it seemed to work for him then.
Right.
It's almost like he uses it as fuel, you know what I mean?
Right.
The real question is how much of this is, calculated and how much is just Trump being Trump.
Right.
One theory is that he's playing to his base, appealing to that core group of supporters, even if it means, alienating others in the process.
Right.
It's a risky game, though, and whether it works this time really depends on how energized his base is and if he can actually attract any new voters with this approach.
So you're saying there might be a method to the madness, but it's a gamble.
Exactly. It could either lead to this huge surge of support from his base, or it could backfire completely.
And speaking of gambles, let's talk about Trump's actual policies, or maybe I should say his ever-changing positions. Because the article really digs into this tendency he has to kind of flip-flop on major issues.
Right.
One minute he's saying he's bringing back SALT deductions. The next he's giving these vague answers about childcare costs.
Yeah.
It leaves you wondering what he actually stands for,
It definitely raises questions about his overall strategy. I mean, are these rapid policy shifts an attempt to appeal to different groups of voters, or do they just make him seem inconsistent? It's hard to say for sure.
And it's not just the policies. The article also goes into some, let's say, internal drama. We're talking about some pretty controversial figures who are now back in the Trump camp. Corey Lewandowski, remember him?
Yeah.
Trump's former campaign manager got let go after those sexual assault allegations. Well, he's back. And then there's Laura Loomer.
Oh, boy.
Far-right activist, big on conspiracy theories, the works. Her being part of the campaign has definitely ruffled some feathers. So give us the rundown on these two. What kind of impact are they having?
Well, both Lewandowski and Loomer are, to put it mildly, polarizing figures. Lewandowski's a known quantity in Trump world. He's known for his, shall we say, aggressive tactics and his ability to just kind of weather any storm. So him being back might signal a return to that more combative, no-holds-barred style.
Interesting.
Now, Loomer, she represents a different kind of influence, one that's much more aligned with, the far-right fringes of the internet.
Right.
And her involvement, well, it raises concerns about the campaign potentially using more extreme rhetoric, maybe even tactics.
It's a bit of a head-scratcher, isn't it? I mean, on the one hand, you have Trump's people saying this is a more disciplined campaign, and then they bring in these figures who are known for, well, stirring the pot.
It's definitely a contradiction, almost like they're trying to control the campaign, but also can't resist a little chaos.
Exactly. So the big question is, can they actually control the forces they've unleashed, or will it blow up in their faces?
$1 million question right there.
All right, let's switch gears a bit and talk big picture. Because despite all this chaos, all this drama, the article does mention some potential positives for Trump. They point to strong voter registration numbers, especially in those key states. Plus, the economy and immigration are still top concerns for voters. So maybe, just maybe, he can tap into that and connect with a wider audience. What do you think?
Well, it's definitely what makes this election so interesting. You can't count Trump out. I mean, look back at 2016.
No one saw it coming.
Exactly. He was outspent, behind in the polls. Everyone wrote him off.
And he seems to love proving people wrong.
Right. And it might be a long shot, but we can't discount the possibility of him doing it again.
So there's still a path to victory, even if it's a narrow one. But the article doesn't shy away from the challenges either. Like, the Democrats are outspending Republicans big time.
Yeah, and that's a tough one to overcome. Money talks in politics, and that financial advantage gives the Democrats a real leg up when it comes to getting their message out.
And then there's Kamala Harris's performance in the polls. The article mentions she's actually polling better against Trump than Biden was at this point in 2020.
That's true. She's a tough opponent, no doubt. And unlike Biden, who was the challenger, she has the power of incumbency on her side.
So that gives her an advantage right off the bat.
Absolutely. It's a level of visibility and authority that's hard to beat.
So she doesn't have to worry about unseating a sitting president like Biden did. But does that mean she has what it takes to win?
Well, incumbency helps, but it's not a guaranteed win. She has to convince voters she's the right person to lead, lay out a clear vision for the future.
It's like it's going to be a close one.
It's shaping up that way. Both candidates have their strengths, their weaknesses, and the next few weeks are going to be full of surprises, I guarantee it.
It's kind of a recipe for, well, a wild ride to November, isn't it?
Yeah, no doubt.
So can Trump really pull it off again, or is this the time where the chaos catches up with him?
That is the billion-dollar question. I mean, it's easy to say, oh, it'll be like 2016 again, but something feels different this time. The political landscape has shifted. Things are way more polarized.
Sure. The stakes feel higher this time around. But you know what I found interesting in this article was the perspective from some of Trump's own advisors. They seem so sure that even with all the craziness, he's actually in a really good spot. They talk about the voter registration numbers. They point to the economy, immigration. Are they just kidding themselves or what?
Well, remember, there's always a method to what looks like madness. Trump's whole thing is tapping into this undercurrent of discontent, this anxiety that's out there. And you mentioned the economy, immigration. Those are issues that hit a nerve.
And haven't gone away.
Exactly. If anything, they've become more intense.
Well, he's playing on those fears, those frustrations that people have.
He is, and you can't underestimate how powerful that can be.
But can it win him an election again? I mean, seriously.
It's a risky strategy, no question.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, people forget incumbency. This time, it's Harris who has that advantage.
Oh, I see what you mean.
And that cuts both ways.
Explain that. How can incumbency be a bad thing?
Well, you've got the visibility, the resources, a certain authority that comes with the office, but you're also the one in charge.
So if people are unhappy with how things are going,
They blame you, fair or not.
so in a way, it's better for Trump to be the outsider, even though he was just president a few years ago.
Exactly. He gets to be the one promising change.
It's wild when you think about it.
It really is, and it makes this election so hard to predict. We can look at the polls, the money, all that, but we have to factor in what's going on in people's minds, what are they feeling, what are they worried about.
Because ultimately, that's what drives their vote.
Exactly.
So where does that leave us? What's your expert opinion? Can Trump actually defy the odds again?
Honestly, it's anybody's guess. He's shown us he can't be counted out, that's for sure. But I think we can all agree, this election is about more than just Trump. It's a reflection of where we are as a country, the challenges we're facing, and the deep divisions that exist.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave it there. We've taken you deep inside the Trump campaign, looked at the chaos, the strategy, the potential outcomes. Now it's your turn. As you learn more about this election, don't just skim the headlines, dig deeper, ask questions. And whatever you do, stay engaged. Because this election, it's about all of us.